What's the good word, my nerds? Sarge here, coming at you today to discuss whether or not classic WoW and similar MMOs are good for working adults. It's no secret that the leveling and gearing process in vanilla WoW was a grind, to say the least. So does that mean that the prerequisite to enjoying classic WoW when it launches will be having an extraordinary amount of free time? In this video, we're going to analyze just that by looking at classic MMO style progression and deciding if it's conducive to enjoyable gameplay for working adults. When you have a lot less time on your hands to play video games, especially when we're talking about the MMO genre, there are going to be a lot less games that appeal to you. A lot of MMO style games are extreme grind fests, and working adults aren't going to find these games as enjoyable, because who wants to hop on in their only free hour to play video games just to run daily quests? I was lucky enough to experience some of the early days of World of Warcraft during the years that I was in college and had plenty of time for gaming. I was able to get wrapped up in the gearing and leveling process, and eventually moved on to raiding and striving to top various charts and earning rare achievements. But being atop the raid charts and the PvP charts and earning the achievements that very few other players have unveils a nasty side of World of Warcraft. This is where the memes and the jokes online come from, of seeing people who have months, if not years, of actual time spent playing the game. I have another video set to release very soon as well that goes into depth explaining my experience in the early days of World of Warcraft and why they were great. But for the purposes of this video, my point is that I could have never enjoyed WoW like I did had I had far less free time on my hands. So when I see an ad for a new MMO or looter shooter coming out, I often find myself reminiscing about the good old days when I was the 5th ranked Fury Warrior on my WoW server. Subconsciously, I start imagining that I could pull something off like that again. So I start playing the new game, whatever it is, and I quickly realize I can't compete in a grind-style MMO with college kids and those who have 8 hours a day for gaming. And this is where I run into what I'd call a gaming impasse. I'm super competitive, and I don't want to play a game that doesn't have competitive features built in. But oftentimes those features disproportionately benefit players who don't have full-time jobs. So it seems like gamers are left with the choice of which type of game they want to play. Do they desire a classic-style MMO that requires daily, multiple-hour sessions to stay current with endgame content? Or do they prefer something that requires far less of a commitment? We've seen plenty of games on both ends of the spectrum, but I'm not sure we've seen a game successfully implement something in the middle. On one end of the spectrum, you have games like The Division and Destiny that were far too casual. Almost any player could breeze through 90% of the content in both of those games. And the last 10% was just finding a competent group of players required for raids or other group objectives. It wasn't necessarily difficult, it was just difficult to find people to play at the time that you wanted to play that particular content. With Destiny in particular, after my first time beating the Vault of Glass, I never felt a sense of accomplishment again in that game. Even the content that was marketed as endgame was so incredibly routine and monotonous. On the other end of the spectrum, you have games like Guild Wars 2, Warframe, and Classic WoW, which is coming out soon. Guild Wars 2 and Warframe are more grind fests than they are anything, but in fairness, the amount of grinding needed to make it through all of Guild Wars 2 fractals or unlock all the frames in Warframe could be considered difficult. But to me, it's more a matter of having the time than it is having the skill to do any of those things. WoW Classic will likely be very much of the same in this regard. Every vanilla WoW video that you watch on YouTube talks about how just leveling up to max level was an accomplishment. And I agree, it was. Then you look at the things like the attunements necessary to enter raids back in the day, with the difficulty of getting well enough geared to even be able to raid. Add that all together and you found yourself needing hundreds and hundreds of hours of gameplay to feel like an accomplished player in the early days of WoW. So for those who have that kind of time on their hands, great. You get a long, drawn-out experience that allows you to separate yourselves from the casual masses. But for us working adults, where does that leave us? Do we have to be relegated to becoming part of the casual masses? I think we can find the answer to this question by looking no further than the success of a game like Fortnite. Part of the appeal of Fortnite is that you can hop in and play with no barriers to entry. However, there is a somewhat meaningful progression system for those who really want to dive deep into the game. So to directly answer the overall question that I asked at the beginning of the video, I think that working adult gamers can find entertainment value in classic style MMOs, but we have to approach them knowing that we will no longer find ourselves atop the progression leaderboards. If we just enjoy the game for the things that they do well, these types of games can still be great. In fact, I've had a lot of fun playing Guild Wars 2 and Warframe, and I'm not very good or highly ranked in either of those games. So before I let you all go, I want to clarify, I'm definitely not suggesting that classic style MMOs with rather large grinds can't be somewhat satisfying for working adults. I think as long as you set your expectations properly, you can still have quite a bit of fun playing these types of games. And I'd strongly recommend that you don't make the same mistake that I made. Over the course of a couple years, I found myself really reluctant to play games that didn't have some type of a really complex progression system, because I felt like, if I put in X amount of hours, what's the purpose of it all at the end of the day? And I think that was the completely wrong way to be looking at video games. The way that we should be looking at video games as a form of relaxation and entertainment is, how relaxing or how entertaining is it? My most played game by far in the last 10 years is Battlefield 4. I mean, there's a progression system as far as unlocking weapons just through XP, but outside of that, there's really not a lot of progression. But when I played that game, I never really cared if I was progressing towards a certain helmet or a sword or anything that made me look cooler than other players. I just had a lot of damn fun playing the game because it was an awesome game to turn on and play. Anyways, guys, I feel myself going off on a little bit of a tangent, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Are you guys looking forward to Classic WoW coming out? Do you still play classic-style MMOs like World of Warcraft, Guild Wars? As a working adult, do you really have time to enjoy those games as much as you maybe did back when you had a little bit more free time? Let me know in the comments. As always, guys, I really appreciate you tuning in, taking the time to listen to this commentary. Let me know what I could do better to make these videos more exciting for you all in the future. I'm going to really work hard to improve the quality of content coming out on this channel. Until next time, Sarge out.